always count it as some good fortune when Advent, the first Sunday in Advent, falls before December the 1st. There's no pressure to do anything Christmassy or to be Christmassy. Yeah, right. If you lived in my street, where there's a guy who loves to win the Darwin's most gaudy Christmas lights display, you would know that Christmas is underway already, or you'd think it is. And he's already got most of his lights. He adds some more things every year. Blow-up Santas and stuff are there this year. It's getting pretty outrageous. And of course, last night I went with my family to just down the road to the St Mary's Cathedral for our first Christmas carols type concert. Yes, Christmas already seems around the corner. But it's Advent. It's that time of waiting, the time of preparing. In fact, I wonder how Christmas will feel for us this year, in a year that's been downright bizarre. And as this year begins to wind down, and as we in the Christian church say, today's the first day of a new year, I wonder how Christmas will feel. Better than usual? Worse than usual? I'm expecting that this month I'm going to be pondering Madeleine L'Engle's poem about Jesus coming. It goes like this. That was no time for a child to be born, with the earth betrayed by war and hate. In a land in the crushing grip of Rome, honour and truth were trampled by scorn. Yet here did the Saviour make his home. When is the time for love to be born? The inn is full on planet Earth, and by a comet the sky is torn. Yet love still takes the risk of birth. We're waiting for God to come. We're waiting for divine intervention. We're waiting for God to break in a new way. And we also have to play our part. Now, I don't know if you know the old story. This is the oldest of all preachers' stories. And with the internet, you probably get this, 5 times a week in your inbox or something, or you've seen it in books. But it's an old story that goes like this, in case you haven't heard it and you've been living on another planet. It's a story, we'll make it about Bill. I don't think we've got any Bills here, so I'm safe there. It's a story about Bill, who really wanted to win the lottery. And so he prayed, Lord, let me win the lottery. And he waited. The results came out. No, he hadn't won. So he prayed again, Lord, let me win the lottery. He waited for the results to come out. He hadn't won again. 3rd week, he prays, Lord, let me win the lottery. Please. He waits for the results to come out. Nothing. But then he hears a thunder and a rumble in the distance. And God speaks to him and says, Bill, do me a favour. Go and buy a lottery ticket. Some of you have heard that one, I reckon. Yes. We have to meet God part way, don't we? And go and buy the lottery ticket or do something. Now, I have to say, this is the disclaimer. Buying a lottery ticket does not ensure that you will win the lottery. So just in case you're all going to rush over next door and buy a lottery ticket, it was a story about meeting God. In the story we heard from Isaiah, in that Bible reading, the people are in the middle of ruin and rubble, frustration, disappointment. The history of the people of God has run into a very bad patch. High hopes have remained unfulfilled. That made me think a lot. And I think there's a lot of similarities for the church in the Western world. I'm old enough now to have seen in my lifetime Billy Graham crusades. the rise of TV evangelists. TV is the medium for getting the word out. In the 1990s, it was proclaimed that there's going to be a decade of evangelism. In 2010, we celebrated 100 years of the modern missionary movement. The idea that in our generation or in our lifetime, in that 100 years, the gospel would reach every corner of the earth and all would hear the good news. But in the Western world, what have we seen? Basically, a decline in church attendance, a decline in the influence of the church, and so on. I wonder if we feel any similarities to the people that Isaiah was talking to. Everything seems to be in rubble and ruins. Where are the ruins in our community? Where are the ruins in our church? Yes, I know we know about the old town hall up the road there. That's a monument of ruins. Anywhere else? Some ruins that you can think of? Well, I was thinking, this very church, isn't it built on the ruins of a place that got bombed? I'm looking at the historians to confirm for me. Nodding their head, thank you. So this very site was bombed, and the building, you can see pictures of it in its battered, bombed out state. We know about ruins and rubble. We live in the middle of it. Where do people now long for restoration, like the people Isaiah was speaking to? Well, I think the biggest cry is perhaps, open the borders. Let us start to travel again. Where else do people long for restoration, where things can be back to normal? Perhaps in church, we sometimes wish we could have the good old days. No one's quite sure what the good old days were or when, but we know we want them back again. The good old days. And we're good at looking back and remembering fondly. We long for that kind of high point again. And so perhaps, like the prophet Isaiah, we want God to intervene in human history right now. Come on, come Lord Jesus. Come now and intervene. Perhaps we cry like Isaiah does. Why don't you tear the sky open and come down? And if that happened, I wonder how it would affect our daily living. I wonder how it would affect our daily living if we called out that prayer each day. Well, the message of Advent is stay alert, watch, hope, look for Jesus coming. You don't know when or where it's going to happen, but you've got to keep your eyes open and you've got to be prepared. And so we can look to the faithfulness of those who have waited, who have tried over the years to set an example for others. What kind of an example do we set for other people in our watching and waiting? Lots of questions this morning. We try and show how to watch and wait. We do it a little bit imperfectly. We try to show what's important. And even if we don't, people pick up cues and signals from what we do and how we speak and how we live. Stay alert. Stay faithful. That's the message from that gospel reading this morning. I might have told you before about one time back in my youth in Adelaide, and we had these musical evenings where young musicians got to showcase their talent. It was called Shout for Joy. And it was organised by one guy in particular. His name is Rod Boucher. And Rod would organise these things called Shout for Joy. It was great. And we all came along and there was music, there was a bit of a message, and it was just a fantastic night. And I remember that at one of the Archer himself was the speaker, and he fixed us all with his steely gaze, and he said, in 10 years' time, 60% of you young, enthusiastic people won't even be here and be part of the church. And a bit like the disciples, we probably all looked at each other and said, is it I, Lord? Not me. Not me, Lord. It won't be me. But sure enough, many of those people are no longer part of the church. Stay awake. Stay alert. Keep watch. We're to be a people who are watching and hoping, running towards God with only Him in mind. I wanted to tell you another personal story. When we'd been living in the UK, and our final act before leaving was to go on a bit of a bike ride as a family down the Danube. We started where the Danube bubbles up out of the ground and followed the river all the way down to Budapest through 4 countries. And we had a tandem bike. You've seen that, some of you. A tandem bike for me and Catalina. Me and Liliani, because she was 12 at the time. And Catalina had a solo bike to ride on. But Liliani eventually said, I don't want to be on the bike. I want to have a go on the solo bike. So Catalina got on the back of the tandem, Liliani went on the solo bike. And the good thing about going down the Danube is it's flat, it's going downhill towards the river. So not too many hills, pretty easy riding. Except every so often at the edge of a village or something would go up and you'd look at the castle and then you'd come down. We'd gone up and we were coming down. Catalina was on the back and we were coming down a hill, and I could see that at the bottom there was a fairly sharp left-hand turn. So I said to Catalina, just give Liliani a signal to put the brakes on to turn left. I don't know what signal Catalina gave. To this day, I don't know what the signal was. Might have been, I don't know. I wasn't going to look around. So we came down, we braked, we turned to the left. Liliani came down and went whoosh, straight through, across the road, into the storm drain, into the creek. We'd gone round the corner and heading on down the path, and I didn't hear the scream, Catalina did. I was enjoying the ride. Catalina heard the scream, said, stop, 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 or words to that effect. And as we turned the corner, I saw a thing you don't often see in Europe. There was a snake on the road. I don't know what kind of a snake. Cute little European snake. But I'm an Australian. I'm staying away from snakes. And we kind of went, I don't think we rode over it. I probably went around it. But I said, hey, look at that snake. And then Catalina's shouting, stop, 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 stop. So we stopped. I'm thinking, oh, she'll be all right. Then Catalina jumps off the bike and starts to run back towards Liliani. And I say, look out for the snake. And Catalina, not even hearing me or seeing it, treads right on the snake and keeps running towards Liliani, who's in this sort of ditch, bleeding and cut and so on. And Mama pulls her out and all a lot of fun. Liliani has scars to prove the truth of this story, and if I'm happy to chaperone anyone who wants to see those scars later. She doesn't show them to anybody, but they are real scars. But the point of the story is the single-mindedness of Catalina, the mother, jumps off. She heard the cry. I didn't even hear that. I would have just kept going. She heard the cry. She jumped off the bike and ran. Did not know, didn't worry about snakes on the road or anything else, because her baby was in the water and she had to get there. Yes, single-mindedness is what's needed in Advent. Running towards the goal. with only the goal in mind, avoiding anything else, not even looking left or right because you're running towards a prize. That, I think, is what Advent's about. Advent is also about Advent calendars and being prepared. And so what I did was I prepared an Advent calendar, and in this Advent calendar, you know how these work, you pull out a thing for each day of Advent. So I thought if we do it in church, we can do it, we'll do days 1 to 5, that'll take us up to next Sunday, and then we'll do some more. So inside, what I've prepared is a little challenge for you. It's not jumping off a cliff or anything crazy, it's fairly easy. And you get a chocolate. But because the message of Advent is be prepared, and because I did prepare, the chocolates don't fit in the little boxes that I bought. So I'll give you a chocolate if you're willing to take a challenge. Get the rules? So I need 5 people this morning who wants to be challenged to do something during Advent. On this bit of paper, you get a chocolate, and you're allowed to eat it now because it might not make it till the end of the service. So you may eat your chocolate now. You won't always hear me say that. But you've got to do the challenge. Who's putting their hand up? Jesse? Did you want the chocolate or the challenge? Be honest. Okay, number 1. You don't have to tell us what it is, but you just have to do it. Anybody else who wants a challenge? Come on now. Okay, I give all the chocolates, that's fine. Don't well, so much. You need number 2. Come on. Yeah. Good. Anyone else?
Yeah, come on.
Yes, Andrew? The 3. No, just one, Andrew. 3. Yes? Oh, 2. Oh, number 4. Very good.
I think you do the chocolate.
Happy, number 5. Okay. Next week, there'll be more opportunities, more chocolates, more challenges, and I'll be better prepared. Should have gone this week, because next week I might have smaller chocolates that fit in the thing. We have to be prepared, we have to get ready, we have to take up the challenge, we have to be single-minded. We have to read the signs, Jesus says. The hints, the clues, like a fig tree. And they're all around us, which doesn't make this or that expectation wrong. But the world that we live in is always in a heap of trouble. And we're always on that tiptoe of expectation or readiness. Hopefully, a sober realization of the mess, creation's dire need for redemption. And soon, we're light years away from the certainty, the special knowledge that says, I know exactly what's going on and what God's timetable is. I love the old idea from some medieval rabbi responding to the question, if you're heading out to plant a tree and you learn the Messiah is coming later that day, what do you do? You're heading out to plant a tree, you learn that the Messiah is coming later that day, what do you do? Answer, plant the tree. We're to stay awake, keep alert, even in this crazy year when it would be easy to go up onto the mountaintop and say to Jesus, let's just have a cup of chamomile tea and a good lie down. Do you know what kind of a year it's been? Let's take a little Sabbath rest. But Jesus' word for us today is stay alert, watch, hope. This is our Advent theme. Because I get to choose the hymns. I get to choose my favourite hymns when the band comes to play for us. This is my favourite Advent hymn, and we don't sing it enough, maybe because we only get to sing it at Advent. But this is fantastic. If you don't know this tune, this is one that by the end of the service you'll be humming this as you go home. It's a great Charles Wesley hymn. Lo, he comes with clouds descending, once for favoured sinners slain.